Hi guys, Romans here and welcome to another music review. I review every album from a viewpoint of a musician, as I'm a singer, songwriter and a bass player for my own group Jakobe, and more than 3 years ago released our debut album called Pursuits in Life. What makes it unique is that it's a heavy prog rock without guitars. Instead you have drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards. You can check out all of our music videos on my YouTube channel. And in the description of all these videos you will find all the information about where is the record available. It's available on all digital platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, but also in this digipack version of a CD with a very beautifully illustrated 20 pages long booklet. So in case you want one, all you need to do is contact me via an email, on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can get one through Bandcamp as well. And today I'm going to review the new self-titled album from Helloween.
Music review. Music review.
Even though Helloween is without a doubt one of the biggest and most influential metal bands in the world, I feel like they should be up there with like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest or Metallica. Helloween made a metal history again when 5 years ago Michael Kiske and Kai Hansen rejoined the band, and basically very interesting thing about Helloween was that they had 3 different singers. Basically you go to their gig, you can hear all of the material sang by the original singers. I don't really think there's any other band like that. I mean, Iron Maiden did kind of something similar when Adrian Smith joined the band and they had like 3 guitar players, but I think it's still a bit different when you have 3 singers, and there's not really a band like that anymore. I don't even think if there is a metal band where you had such influential singers, like multiple singers. I can't really think of any other band right now. So, I mean, that's amazing. And the idea of 3 singers is just really brilliant. I think that this record was maybe trying to answer one of the biggest what-ifs in metal. What if Kai Hansen never left Helloween? What if Michael Kiske was never fired from Helloween? What would happen? I think the main question is what if Hansen never left Helloween, because the band kind of changed their style a lot after he left the group, and I think that he was the biggest songwriter on the first 3 albums and his compositions are among the best. So does this album give us the answer to this question? I would say partially. I will get to that in a review. Also, I do have to say, initially I was really looking forward to this record, but then when I saw the songwriting team behind this record, I was a bit skeptical. If you have seen my worst to best video of Helloween's discography, then you know. If not, I will tell you. I'm not a big fan of their previous 3 albums. I mean, Seven Sinners and especially Straight Outta Hell and My God Given Right. These 3 records are, in my opinion, pretty forgettable and pretty weak albums. And basically the songwriting team behind this record is the same one that has delivered every album since Rabbit Don't Come Easy. So it's Andy Darius, Michael Weikath and Sasha Gershner, with an occasional compositions from Markus Grosskopf. And with the exception of 1 track by Hansen, everything was written by these people. So I was a bit scared. I was like, okay, so what if the quality is the same as on the previous albums? But, well, there's a lot to talk about. So I've heard this album 8 times as of now, came out a couple days ago. Let's dive right into the review after all this talking. Sorry. The opening track is Out for the Glory, written by Michael Weikath, and I like the beginning of the track, which serves like an intro, and intros were pretty much a Helloween thing. Like, so many of their records have a dedicated intro track to set the mood. This is a track with mainly Michael Kiske on vocals, and this is a very anthemic, happy song. We also hear Kai Hansen in a screaming post-chorus part. The The second track, Fear of the Fallen, which is also the second single from the album, was written by Andy Darius. I think that this is a great duet between Darius and Kiske. And one of the best, actually. It's one of the most balanced on the album. I like the altering in the chorus. Like when the first chorus starts, Andy Darius starts the sentence, Kiske finishes it, then Kiske starts and Andy Darius finishes it. And then in the second chorus, they kind of reverse that. And in the last chorus, they kind of go back. And it almost makes every chorus very fresh. And like, I really, really like that. I think that the altering is just amazing. Michael Kiske has been getting so much attention, so much appreciation as a singer ever since Keeper One, but I think that Andy Darius is one hell of a singer as well. And even though I do prefer Kiske, Andy Darius is really a brilliant, brilliant singer. And also this track that he wrote, there's a lot of stuff happening here, a lot of stuff. The third track, Best Time, is written by Sasha Gershner. The choruses are Kiske's exclusively with some addition of Hansen, and I like the final two choruses where Andy Darius joins them on higher vocals. Must Pollution is one of my favorite tracks on the album, written by Andy Darius, and this is almost like a typical song he would write for Helloween. And this is also one of the two songs that has him on vocals exclusively, and I think it's a brilliant track. I like that it's much darker and much more serious than anything we've heard so far. The only thing I don't like is that part shortly before the chorus where he has some sort of an effect on his voice, and it kind of reminds me of Austrian yodeling, which I don't like, but the riff of the track and even the chorus is brilliant. I love it. Angels is another song written by Sasha Gershner, and I like that dark, almost goth-like atmosphere at the beginning. This is another anthem, but it's much more serious, and personally I do prefer these types of songs. You know, when it's power metal, when it's this big anthem, I like them being serious, being a bit dark. Then we have Rise Without Chains, another track written by Andy Darius, who actually wrote, I think, most tracks for this album. And the verses bring the Time of the Oath record to mind, especially some of his compositions like We Burn or Before the War. But the verses also remind me a little bit of the verses from Eagle Fly Free, actually. But this is another song with happy anthemic choruses, and I do have to say I'm not really used to seeing Andy write stuff like that. Like, he really probably went out of his comfort zone or whatever, you know, because all of his songs are kind of, you know, like if I didn't know he wrote these tracks, I would guess that Michael Waycath wrote them because he's usually the one coming up with tracks like this. But I do have to say this is one of the weakest tracks on the album. I'm just generally not a big fan of these types of choruses, but again we have that altering of the two singers in the chorus, and that makes it that much cooler for me. Indestructible is a song written by Markus Grosskopf, the bass player, and he was always a very occasional songwriter, but some of his songs were really great, like just listen to Hell Was Made in Heaven. The beginning riff kind of brings Metal Meltdown from Judas Priest to mind. It starts heavy, but the chorus is very melodic, very catchy, and you kind of realize that Michael Kiske was born to sing choruses like these because it's just so pleasant for the ears. I mean, his voice is like, it's so smooth, it's like honey. It's just amazing. And actually the chorus of this song reminds me a little bit of the track Exceptional from Unisonic. Another track written by Michael Waycath is Robot King, and the verses of this track actually bring me back to the Walls of Jericho days. And I do have to say that Andy Darius, he's just got so much grit on his voice. He's a real screamer, and I love it. But this is another anthemic, happy song, and there has been so many already, so I don't know why they didn't experiment a little more to add to the variety. And once again, you know, I'm not a big fan of these tracks because just the chorus of this track, it kind of sounds like it's written for children in kindergarten. It's from some like a theme song from some fairy tales for kids. And you know, even the tracks like The Game Is On or The Secret Alibi, I always hated these songs, or Can't Do It from Gambling with the Devil. Horrible tracks. I always hated these tracks by Michael Waycath. But again, we have that altering of both singers in the choruses, which actually makes me not skip the track and makes me somehow to enjoy that. Cyanide is a bit heavier metal song written by Andy Darius, and the second track having him exclusively on vocals, and I like it. Down in the Dumps is the third and the last track written by Michael Waycath for this album. I like the beginning, which is very cinematic, but again, this is that very positive, anthemic track. But there's this part I really like how Andy sings it, the melody. And the chorus is like a textbook speed metal, not power metal, but speed metal chorus that I think that it would fit Walls of Jericho record, and it's really heavy, and I like Andy. This is mostly Andy's song, and he really delivers it greatly. Then we have a short instrumental, Orbit, and a 12 minutes long opus, Skyfall, both written by Kai Hansen. And this kind of brings to mind how Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 ended, where we had 13 minutes long Helloween track, one of their best songs, just absolutely a masterpiece. And then something less than 2 minutes long instrumental followed the sign. So this is a similar way of ending a record. Orbit has basically the melody from Skyfall, but it's in a very ambient way. And then the Skyfall is a really, really great track. I do have to say that this is probably the best track on the album. And the chorus is just fantastic. It's powerful, it's melodic, it's catchy, but it's not cheesy, it's not too happy. It's the perfect balance. This is how I wanted all of the choruses to be like, or most of them, because some of them are really great. Then we have that 70s synth part, and this is probably the only track on the album where we really have actual parts sang by Kai Hansen. Hey, little alien, little gray, where's the place your people stay? Who's hugely underused on this record, and I know that he's also a guitar player, so he probably had his own fair share of guitar recording and solos. I would have liked to hear him more on this record. I think that idea of having three singers with which they're almost going into that Avantasia territory is really put to its full potential here in this track. Each singer really shines, and I also like that powerful and epic ending that kind of leaves some room story-wise for a sequel. I personally would have hoped for more songs from Kai Hansen and even some compositions from Michael Kiske, so why didn't they write any music? When it comes to Michael Kiske, I always considered his compositions on all 4 albums from Helloween to be very strong. Probably the last time he really wrote any metal tracks was for his first solo album. That's been 25 years ago, so you know, it's kind of logical that he didn't come up with any metal songs. When it comes to Kai Hansen, my personal opinion is that it's not really that he wasn't allowed to write more music. It was rather than he couldn't. Skyfall was probably the only song he could contribute with, which is kind of a shame, but you know, he as a songwriter is probably at the point where he can't really come up with that much stuff anymore. So it's kind of a shame because, you know, looking at this record, this is probably the happiest album from Helloween. You know, like Happy Happy Helloween. This is basically the best example of that. And all these happy anthemic tracks were just a small portion of every of their records. You know, it was usually like 2-3 songs per record. Even if you look at Keeper 1 and 2, there are not really these happy anthems. Most of these tracks are really serious. Maybe Rise and Fall is the only track that kind of falls into that category, and honestly, it's the only track I think Keeper 2 could do without. So it's a very interesting direction they decided to take with this record. It's like they decided to do the most Helloween record they could from a certain point of view. All 3 singers are amazing. You know, Andy Darius is a great singer in his own right. Michael Kiske definitely sounds different. His voice is not as powerful, let's say, but it's just so round, so warm. And he even uses some distortion on his voice, some drive, some grit, which is something that was totally absent on Keeper 1 or 2, for example. So it shows a different side of his. And generally, I think that most of the fans of this band will be happy with this record. I like it. If I didn't, I wouldn't be making a review. I like it. I think this record could have been better, maybe. Could have been better, could have been different. But this is probably how they felt. This is probably what they wanted to do, and it was probably the right record for them. Did you like this review? If you did, and if you like the videos I'm making, consider supporting me by purchasing my debut album Pursuits in Life, because I include audio samples in my reviews and thus making them the most informative and entertaining to watch. I usually run a risk of getting a copyright claim, meaning that I won't be able to monetize my videos, and whatever money a video earns goes to the author of these samples. I have no problems with that, as these bands and artists, they deserve all the money they can get, but these videos are extremely time consuming, especially now when I'm working on my second album. So basically the best and the only way how you can support me is by buying my debut album. And if you like Helloween, if you like Michael Kiske as a singer, I think you're gonna like that record a lot. Have you heard this album already? If you have, you can let me know in the comment section below whether you agreed or disagreed with me. If you are a Helloween fan, you can let me know how well do you think it compares to their other records, maybe which one is your favorite one. Also be sure to check the worst to best video and let me know your own list of their records going from worst to best. You can follow me on Facebook or on Instagram. You can find links to both in the description of this video below. Also, if you like this review, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe. You can check out my own original music, my live performances, my worst to best series, including Helloween as well, and a lot of other reviews as well. Thanks a lot for watching.